Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media, Breed in the Grand Show, produced by your host. And the spirit of the show is helping West Michigan become neighbors. And boy, do I have a very special neighbor for you to meet this week. In West Michigan, it is Tulip Time. And for all those who know where the City of Holland is and what they have going on in the first 2 weeks of May, I want you to be introduced to the Executive Director of the Tulip Time Festival, Gwen Auwerda, right?
Yes!
Welcome to the show, Gwen.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to tap right into this because I know you have a busy schedule. You're doing all the circuits about promoting the festival, but let's talk about the upcoming Tulip Festival that's coming it's in Holland, I would say. And I know you have something very special this year that's going on. It's going to be celebrating its
90th.
90th year.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. And I guess this time of year, whenever we see the tulips starting to come up, it's spring. Mm-hmm. And right away, I don't know why, when I walk by people and see tulips, I think right away, Holland.
Right.
Do you get people to say that too?
We do, absolutely. I mean, Holland and tulips kind of are synonymous together, which is really fun and interesting, but yeah.
All right, I want to talk about it. I did some research a little bit on your website on the history of the Tulip Festival. We want to talk about that, what's new this year, who is all coming, and is it still being kind of embraced with all the newbies that are coming into Holland, because Holland's growing like crazy, right?
Right, correct.
So let's talk a little bit. Why don't you share a little bit of who you are, what you do, and a little bit of the history of the Tulip Festival, and we'll move on from there.
Great. Well, I have been in this role of Executive Director for the last 8 years.
Okay.
And this is the 9th festival that I've helped manage and put together. We have a team of 13 that work year-round on planning the festival. We started working on the 90th over a year ago. We typically work kind of about a year in advance, but with the 90th and the celebration, we thought we really need to get some planning done in advance. So we have been planning for quite a while for the 90th. Tulip Time started in 1929 by a woman named Lyda Rogers. And Lyda was a biology teacher from the east side of the state here in Holland, Michigan. And she was not Dutch, but she's teaching biology, and predominantly her students were all Dutch. And so she said, well, how can we bring the old Holland to the new Holland,
right,
and kind of connect the Netherlands and Holland, Michigan together? So she had an idea to plant 100,000 tulips, because that was something that didn't quite originate in Holland. They originated in Turkey,
okay,
but really were a big thing and a big flower in Holland. So it took her 2 years to pitch the idea to the City Council and to the Women's Literary Club, and they finally said, okay, we'll do that. So in the fall of 1928, 100,000 tulips were planted.
I read that. Oh my gosh.
And they bloomed in the spring, and people came to come and see all the beautiful tulips.
Okay.
Now back in 1929, I'm not sure how they communicated that tulips were blooming, because they didn't have cell phones and TV and all of that that we communicate with today.
Uh-huh.
But people came, and it was really something over the years that turned it into a festival. It didn't start out with everything that we do today.
Okay.
So every year they added something. So the war happened shortly after.
Oh my God, the Depression. So how did they fare through that the next?
Well, they just planted tulips but didn't have a festival, if you will.
Right,
And so
okay.
the children had a day that they could call Tulip Day, and they wore their Dutch costumes to school.
Oh, how cute.
Tulip Day. And that turned into the Kinder Parade years later.
Oh, all right.
And then they added some folk dancing, and that's what we call Dutch dancing today.
Right.
So over the years, things just got added one by one by one, and between the Visitors Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce and many of the businesses in Holland, it's primarily been driven by a volunteer group of people as well as these other organizations. And until probably about 30 years ago, Tulip Time began to kind of be an independent organization,
okay,
and is currently a nonprofit organization, and we're independent from the city and all the other organizations, but we partner with them,
right,
to produce this 9-day festival, because we couldn't do that all on our own.
Right, and you guys had a kind of it's within spring, and you say you're a separate entity, but you guys are a big tourist attraction, right?
Exactly, and we work very closely with both the city and our Visitors Bureau. So people get confused because they think we are the city. So that's why I just like to say to people, well, we are a nonprofit organization, but we couldn't do what we do without that partnership and all those places around the community.
Sure. And okay, so now that you've been, this year is the 90th, and Holland has had some changes. You've had some huge, different Dutch, I guess, diversity. Because, you can go there. Because I went there. I told you that before we started the show. I went there about 10 years ago, and I'm looking at these little dancers out there. They're called the Dutch dancers.
Correct.
And I just saw these all different Hispanics and stuff like that. They're all embracing this, I guess, culture or what what am I trying to use here? The word right here. Let me think. Just this history, heritage.
Right. It's heritage.
Right.
So the community was founded by Albertus van Raalte. He came over with people from the Netherlands to create a new world.
Okay.
From the Netherlands. And so that's how the community was formed, but it's not at all how the community is made up today.
Right.
We have a very diverse population, and being a tourist attraction as well during Tulip Time, we have a very diverse population of tourists. Last year we had, and have for the last few years, all 50 states are represented, and I know that because I run a zip code report out of our ticket system, and
okay.
Somebody buys a ticket from all 50 states are represented to go to something during Tulip Time. The Visitors Bureau also tracks people who come in and have them sign in and say what country are they from. And we had over 35 countries represented last year during the festival. So it's really an international draw. As you and I talked before too, people say, oh, you're from Holland. That must be where the Tulip Time Festival is. It is. And it's really known around the world.
Well, I will tell you, we were just sharing too that my husband did a lot of traveling in his early career, and he said that was the one thing too when there was at Grand Rapids. Oh, you're by Holland? And they go, oh my God, we come to the Tulip Festival all the time. Right. And my husband's like, okay. And you don't appreciate sometimes when you live here.
Right.
Like people come here and they love the Great Lakes. And we are like, you don't go to the lake all the time? No, we don't go to the lake all the time in the summers.
Right.
But you can appreciate that. So he got a kick out of how popular it is.
Right.
And it is extremely. Do they know when it's going on in the Netherlands? People come a lot from that area that want to see the festival.
We do get people from the Netherlands, but most of our contacts with the Netherlands are through the consulates in the embassy.
Okay.
And so those are the folks that typically will come, representing the Netherlands and the embassy. We buy all of the tulips, or the city buys all the tulips that are planted directly from the Netherlands as well. So we have folks that we work with there that are here during the festival too. So this year, 4.5 million tulips are planted compared to that 100,000.
Oh my gosh! Do you still
Back
have
when we
some of the
started.
same tulips that were planted back in 1929?
No.
They don't live. Did they die off eventually, or you have to replant them, or what? How long does that?
They do die off eventually.
Okay.
We replant all the tulips in all the city parks every year.
Okay.
They're all brand new. And I have some in my yard that have been there for 4 or 5 years, and the stems come up, but they don't bloom anymore.
Oh, I see.
So you do get that point where they don't continue to bloom, and then you just have to dig them up. But in the city, we plant brand new ones every year. And then the last of May or 1st of June, we have what we call a tulip dig. And you can come and bring a bucket and your own shovel, and you can dig up all the bulbs you want for $10 a bucket, and then plant them at your house. And again, they'll last for a couple of years, like I was saying mine have done. But once you get to year 4 or 5, then they sometimes don't bloom. Sometimes they do. You never really know.
Does the city encourage people to plant tulips in their yards, or what do they, do you get new people that come and they're, that's kind of like tradition. They look around and everybody's like, you got to plant some tulips because you're part of Holland.
Absolutely. People do plant tulips, and we've had people drive from Indiana to come and be part of the dig because they are here for Tulip Time. And they always say, how can I get some tulip bulbs? So we said, come back for the dig. And they do. And it's really fun.
What is people's most favorite color? Is it red? Because you see a lot of red.
You see a lot of red. I think so. We do get phone calls, funny enough, that want to know when the red ones are blooming.
Right.
I don't know.
Is it really?
It's any different than any other color.
Okay.
There's 3 varieties of tulips. They're early, mid, and late bloomers. We plant all late bloomers here in this area because of the weather.
Okay.
And snow melt downtown. And a lot of our tulip beds are part of the snow melt process on 8th Street there. So we plant late blooming ones because they don't ever really freeze totally because of the snow melt through the winter.
Right.
So they're the first to bloom even though they're a late blooming tulip.
Well, I was concerned when it was snowing a couple Sundays ago. Right away, I'm like, if that affects the tulips, I'm telling you.
Snow, frost, none of it does. In fact, tulips are one of the most resilient flower.
Okay.
And they can tolerate that type of weather. They prefer a 40-degree or less night through the time when they start to bud. And
Okay.
then once they bud and begin to bloom, then they want sun during the day. And you will find a tulip will open up fully during the day, and you think, oh my goodness, it's going to be dead tomorrow. It gets cold at night, and it totally closes back up until the sun comes out, and it will open again. And it will do that for weeks.
It
So-
lasts for weeks. So how long does the tulip really last?
Roughly 21 days. Now, if we get 80 degrees during the day and the night for a week, then they'll be gone at the end
Okay.
of that week.
Do you always concerned about that? You would? Are you worried?
I'm always concerned about
Well,
the
you
weather.
get somewhere where the tulips weren't as, because we get the news, right? They're like, oh my gosh, the tulips. But is that, you guys are always looking at the forecast to
We do.
see? Okay.
We do, and the Parks Department are really great about giving us information and
Okay.
tips on how things are going. And if you're in a sunny, protected spot, they bloom. Like now, there's beds that are blooming today.
Well, you can't pick them, can you?
You cannot pick them.
But we were told that when we went there, we were little. Don't pick the tulips, right?
And they will last. They'll last for a couple of weeks, and then the next ones that'll begin to bloom, they'll last. So there's always great color the week of the festival. It's just the way the timing works. The only year they bloomed early was in 2012.
Right.
But everything was blooming middle of March. So we did not have tulips that year for the festival. But every other year, there's always something in bloom.
All right, so let's talk about I know you have some great leaders, the governor, political leaders. So what do you have? Who's coming?
Who's coming this
Who's
year?
coming this year?
Well, we have some really great things happening. On Wednesday, Ginger Z from Good Morning America is going to be here for
I
the
saw that,
day.
yes, okay.
And she will be doing all the weather from Holland.
Okay.
On Good Morning America Wednesday. She's the Grand Marshal in our Wednesday parade, the Volks Parade. And then we have a luncheon on Wednesday for a lot of our sponsors and community leaders. And the governor and lieutenant governor will be here, and they also are walking in the parade with many of the legislature, both state and local county level.
Okay.
So that's always such a fun day.
It is, and and I watch
very
it
fun.
on the social media platforms. And I want to see what the governor. You see him. I used to see Engler and stuff with his wooden shoes
Right.
going down with what is that they're pushing, a
They
broom?
push a broom because
Okay.
we're scrubbing the streets
Right.
so that they're Dutch clean, and that's one of the old history pieces of the Dutch is that if the streets are dirty, you have to clean them. So city council goes in front of the parade and with white gloves pronounce the streets dirty. Of course, they're black when they pick their white gloves off, right? I mean, they're streets. And then we come by with buckets and brooms, and there's a whole brigade of people that are scrubbing the streets in preparation for the festival.
All right. Well, I was introduced to the Tulip Time Festival when I was in school. We went there on a school trip. It was on Friday. I still remember Friday. We brought our lunch, and we got to spend the whole day. Is school still bringing students to the festival? Is that something still going on?
Our schools participate in the Thursday parade, so there's over 7,000 students that are dressed in Dutch costume that walk in the Thursday Kids Parade between
Okay.
grade schools and bands, and they all have a theme. So they have Dutch food, Dutch masters, art, and they all carry a prop that they've made in their art class
Okay.
during the parade. So that's where a lot of the children are involved. Windmill Island has a historic Dutch trade fair.
I was
and
gonna
it-
ask you about
and
that,
that
yeah.
is a fabulous event, and they target fourth graders to come prior to the festival and enjoy the historic Dutch trade fair. So they have reenactors that are back in the period of when the Indians were here, as well as the Dutch when they came to town and figured out how to work together and
Okay.
live together in the community. And it's a really great event. And that does happen for the general public as well, the first weekend and into the beginning part of the festival. So 4 or 5 days, there's full reenactors there, and that's a great place to go and see things.
Do you have anything new? I mean, for the 90th. I mean, did you guys? I know you have the governor's coming, whatever. But and you have your tradition. But if you're starting anything that would be new, that would be interesting to talk
One
about.
very fun thing we're doing this year is a Kloppen Garden. So it's a public art project.
Okay.
We have 3-foot long wooden shoes. Now they're not actually wood because to get a pair of wooden shoes that large from the Netherlands was really expensive to have them shipped here.
Okay.
So we had a mold made and have a composite material of these wooden shoes. So they are as authentic as they can be and look, but they're just large. And we had artists be able to give us a concept and say, here's what I would do with it. Some are painted, some are mosaiced with tile. It took 2 months for one pair of shoes to be done with mosaic tiles that were precisely cut. And there's flowers on the top, and I mean, they're phenomenal. Tierra Yachts made 2 boats out of the wooden shoes.
Oh my!
And they're
where are they going to be
phenomenal.
displayed? Are they going to be judged, or
they will be? So we had Kristen Armstrong from Saugatuck Center for the Arts.
Okay.
Chose a winner, and now we have a public contest. So there's 45 pair, which equal 90 years, and these 45 pair will be displayed throughout downtown, in the window on the waterfront and Centennial Park. And we'll have a map. You can go find them all like a scavenger hunt.
Oh, how
and
cool.
see where they all are. Take your pictures. They'll all be in tulip beds. We ask that you not step in them so that they don't get damaged. But they will be placed through the parks and ready to be viewed by May 1. And so between May 1 and May 11, you can vote on our Facebook page and our album of those. You can like your favorite. And then there's cash prizes for the top 3 winners.
Wow! And you'll have each of those on your Facebook page, so everybody
you can look in
see them all,
advance.
might be able to take a view of them, and of course you'll have the winner, of course, on there.
Right.
But did you get a lot of people that really wanted to be part of that?
We did. We had over 50 submissions, and we had to pick 45.
Okay.
So
that's not so bad.
Really been great.
Yeah.
So that's really fun, and that's new. We've not done that before. The Holland Civic Center has been remodeled, so we also have a couple of new events happening there. We have some premier parade seating there. We're doing a Hotel California, which is an Eagles tribute band concert the first Saturday.
Really? Oh, I love the Eagles.
Which I know. The Eagles are so great. And they played up in Grand Haven to sell out crowds. So we're really excited to have them here. Our headliner this year is Jay Leno. Almost sold out, but there are some tickets left for that show on Friday night. So we have a lot happening. We've got artisan markets and the 3 parades and just lots of great entertainment, both local and national.
All right, so if I was a mother bringing my children to introduce, is there a great place to start? Where would I pull in the Holland? And, of course you probably have signs of whatever's going on, right? But if I was mom, what would be your recommendation if you were taking a young family, walking like I would have done when my kids were little, to introduce them?
The first place I would go in the first weekend is down to our Kinderplatz event, which is designed for children age 3 through 10. And there's a small children's carnival. You can travel the provinces and get a passport and have it stamped at different stations where businesses will be either doing a craft or teaching you something about that particular province.
Okay.
And on Sunday of the first weekend, May 5, we have an innovation lab at the Civic Center inside. So the first robotics teams from the high schools will have their robots there. They'll be letting kids play with them, demonstrate how they work. Some businesses are there as well to help in the STEM education process. So that's a really great place to go when you've got kids. Always walking around downtown is great. There's lots to do and see, and of course you have the wonderful carnival food, so you have to have the elephant ear and popcorn and those things.
Right.
The first weekend for small children those are really some great things to do and take your kids to, and they're all free.
They're all free. Everything is free.
The Kinderplatz is free. I would say the carnival, you do have to pay for tickets to ride on the rides, but the Kinderplatz is free. Artisan Market at Centennial Park is free.
Now, let's talk about the dancers, because I remember that mostly with the parade. And you have the older dancers, and then they get the littler ones. I don't know I don't remember if they danced together or they were separate kind of groups.
So we have 4 different groups of dancers. So we start with our kinder dancers, grade 3 through 5. And they do a dance that talks about a shoe cobbler who's repairing shoes, but can't always have enough shoes for his own family, right?
Right.
So that's a cute little dance they sing and they perform. We have a middle school program as well that does a different dance, and then a high school program. So that starts in 9th grade through 12th grade. Once you graduate from high school, you can be part of our alumni group.
Gosh, how cool.
Alumni in high school do dance together because they're dancing the same dance, and it's a great way to kind of fill the park and fill downtown. We have mother-daughters that dance together, grandmas mother-daughters, aunts and uncles, we have it all. We have a lot of adults that learn how to dance later in life.
Right.
We have a community program that gets wrapped in there as well.
How do they get involved with that? Do you have to go through through your office, or how would they, like, you know what, I'd love to have my daughter do that or my son or something next year? How do they?
The local high schools are the ones that participate in the high school program.
Okay.
And because practices start in January and they're 2 times a week.
Wow.
So the local schools do that. We have a community program that if you didn't dance in high school and want to learn, you can join that program. Again, it's 2 times a week, January through April, to learn the dance. So it's a long.
That's a long process.
It's a long time.
Right.
We have around 700 total between the kinder dance and through the alumni that dance on an annual basis for us. Typically, there's 55-ish opportunities to see Dutch dance through the festival.
Sure.
So if you're a dancer, you're really busy putting your costume on and off and being involved. This last year, we found that there's a barrier to participation at the high school level. To buy a costume, they're all custom made. You can't go to any store and pick off the rack.
Right.
So we have seamstresses that make those. They're special approved costume patterns that have been designed by many of our costume directors, and they're representative of the late 1800s, early 1900 dress in the Netherlands. So they are authentic. There's no zippers, there's no Velcro. They're all put together with buttons and snaps, which are authentic from that time period. But we found this barrier to participation. A costume and shoes is approximately $300 to have one sewn for each student. So we started a fund called Join the Dance Initiative, where people can donate to help support a dancer in this program.
Right.
And we had a goal of 200 costumes. We had a fundraising gala back in March. And guess what? We hit the goal. So we've now doubled it. So now we're looking for 400 costumes, and we're going to continue to build that fund.
Of course.
To help students who want to participate in something extracurricular. We do have students that are involved in band and AP classes and sports that dance as well. So they are very busy. And we have kids who this is what they do. Because their mom danced or their grandma danced. So it's really a fun program.
How many people that maybe come back and say, you know what, I really appreciate it now on that one?
We see it all. And I'd say more than half of our dancers at the high school level aren't Dutch.
Right.
They're of other ethnicities. You don't have to be Dutch to dance.
Right.
And so it's a combination of learning the dance and learning a little bit about the Dutch history, but it's also about our community. And how
Right.
you just participate in the community, give back to the community, because all these dancers are volunteers. They're not paid to do any of it. So they love to just participate, and they like getting their picture taken with
Do they go other
visitors.
places to perform?
Primarily locally.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't really have a traveling group, nor do we have a request for that. But
Okay.
yeah, it's mainly just
Do
local.
you have a waiting list on that for kids in school that only so many?
No,
can
if
be?
you want to participate, we'll find a way to help you participate. And
how
we'll turn no one away.
But how many times do they have to be at these events? I mean, do they have to be when we're talking about at the 10 days?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have to perform every day, or how does that work for them?
They can select when they want to perform. There's a group of 12 that make up the high school and alumni dance group. We have substitutes, so if a group will say, we can perform this day and this time. If somebody can't make it, there's always a substitute available that could jump in for them. Typically, you're going to dance between 10 and 12 times during the 9-day festival if you're a dancer. Again, we have 55 opportunities for the performances, so we can easily fit those.
And how long is it? I see them in the parade, but how long is one of the performances?
The dance is about a 15-minute performance. The kinder dance and the middle school dance is approximately another 10. So we'll dance those two groups, for example, at 6:30 at night, and then at 7 o'clock we'll do high school and alumni. So there's a little break in between. But you can come and see all of them within a 45-minute to an hour time frame. It's really interesting, and again, we could not put the festival on without all those great volunteers that do everything they do.
What is the most common question people ask you when they're calling you? If I was an outsider, when exactly is the day that the tulips come out the best, or what?
That's the biggest question, and they start calling in January, honestly, and they say, well, I'm planning my trip, but what day are they all going to bloom? And in January, we have no idea.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's really hard to pinpoint that. And we do get calls about when the red ones bloom.
The red, I would say. Well, I think we're just used to seeing red tulips. I don't know why. Well,
Absolutely.
red is a beautiful color.
It's a beautiful color. They're all beautiful in their own way.
What is your favorite color?
Orange has got to be my favorite color.
Yeah, do you have orange ones in your yard? Do you have
I
lots
do.
of
I have orange in my yard. We have orange around our office. Our theme this year is Paint the Town Orange. And this is patterned after Koningsdag, which is the King's Day in the Netherlands. The King and Queen, they're called the House of Orange.
Orange?
So orange is the color in the Netherlands. And on the King's birthday, they have a huge celebration in the streets, and people have flags and deck out in orange and beads. Like St. Patrick's Day, it's green.
Really?
In the Netherlands, it's orange. So our theme this year is Paint the Town Orange. So bring orange, wear orange. Our brochure's got an orange tulip on the front.
I was going to say, when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking orange. Okay. Well, I can see that on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, it is beautiful, though. All right, so what else would you like to share with, let me get through my questions here. Make sure I've got everything doing this, because everybody's like, ask this. And I asked about, tell me just a little bit about Windmill Island and why somebody should visit that one for us.
Windmill Island is a fabulous city park, and it has the last working windmill that was allowed to leave the Netherlands, and it's been here 52 years now.
Wow.
And it is a working mill. In fact, they milled 2,000 pounds of flour this week. They don't mill in the winter because there's not always a lot of wind, so they will mill when they can in the spring and summer. The flour you can purchase at the windmill right at the island.
Really?
And they make flour that you can take home with you.
Okay.
In some work, right? And
right.
So there are other windmills in the States, and some have come from the Netherlands, and some are working mills, but this was the last one that the government allowed to leave.
Wow. I didn't know that one. That's pretty exciting,
It's
right?
exciting.
Yeah.
And the gardens there are just beautiful.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of tulips planted, a lot of annuals. There's a really cool, authentic organ that plays, and an authentic carousel from the Netherlands.
Exactly.
You can buy Delft there, and I'd say that's one of people's must-dos if you're coming to Holland. You must go to Windmill Island. And it's open starting next week through October, 1st of October. So if you can't make it during the festival, do come back and go there. They've got a wonderful place.
Well, you know about the average attendance? That was one of the questions somebody told me to ask.
Yes, we did an economic impact study last year with Hope College Frost Center. We get an average of 500,000 visitors over the 9 days that come into the area and come into Holland. So it's a small community with 500,000 visitors.
Right.
The economic impact is, where do people spend their money, and what's the benefit of the festival? We're a catalyst for hotels and restaurants and shopping. That economic impact is $48 million over a 9-day period of new money. So economic impact, people always think, oh, that's in your pocket. No, it's not in Tulip Time pocket. That's new money that comes into the community because the festival exists. So it's spent at all those other places.
Sure. Wow. And well, you know they're staying in Grand Rapids, or staying in Granville. And
Absolutely.
Maybe, right? Because you can't, all those people that are coming into town that maybe want to spend a few days, right? Because once you come, if you're going to travel here, you're going to go to the festival, and you're going to be here a couple days to enjoy that. But yeah, I had no idea it was that much. That's kind of exciting, though, right?
It is. It's really great to have some metrics around what we do as well. So now you have something to gauge against and know where you should. We have demographic data. More than 67% of the attendees were pre-retirement age. And I think a lot of people have a perception that the festival is a retiree festival.
Yeah,
and
I did.
And it's not.
Well, you just think because you grew up here.
Well, right. Totally. I understand that.
And I thought when you're going, you know what? David's like, maybe we need to go to the festival this year and see what's going on.
You should come, and you should come to the lunch-in.
Come to the lunch-in.
You should come to the lunch-in.
Well, that would be wonderful.
Wednesday, May 8th.
May 8th. All right, well, put me down. I'll be coming. But I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy to learn more about it, and I'm glad it's continuing and growing. and we want to wish you all the success today. So as we wrap it up, anything else? You got everything else covered? Just go to Tulip Time for all the details and come check us out. It looks like already it's a nice day today.
It is.
So we're moving in the right direction, right?
That's right.
All right, so all the luck. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll have you here next year, but we look forward to seeing you in the future, all right?
Thank
you
you
very much. That will be all today. We will see you next time on Breathe in the Grand Show. This is Pamela Keim. Take care.